The Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi says that his priorities include efficient service delivery in healthcare, transport, water and the provision of electricity. Lesufi speaking out about the changing face of the townships as another key focus area for his administration. Now, the new member of the Executive Committee for Finance, Jacob Mamabolo, has come up with, he has to come up with a clear plan in line with Lesufi's vision. Now, the MEC joining me in studio to talk to us about his new portfolio. MEC, very good morning to you. I'm sure the viewers would have heard you and seen you combat ready this morning as we talk about your priorities. Let's start with the issue of e-tolls, MEC. I have a list of them, and we're going to have to go through them very quickly because of time constraints. E-tolls, your Premier says, get rid of them and do that fast. When is that going to happen? And there is apparently a financing model that will then take over the debt away from Sanro.
Firstly, let me greet you and all the viewers, and thank you very much for inviting us. Highly appreciated. And just, yes, indeed, the Premier of our province, Honorable Panyaza Lesufi, has clearly spelled out what needs to be done. We are having to reposition our financial instruments to deal with the matters that he has raised, and top of that being the profound and very correct principle we have made for the total scrapping of the e-tolls. And as you correctly said, we are taking it one step further in the sense that we are looking at how to increase our revenue base in anticipation of a highly anticipated announcement by national government, which of course is sitting with a matter of making an announcement on this. But as a province,
but when is that likely to happen, MEC? I'm sorry to focus on this imminent announcement, because this has been imminent for years now, in the words of the Transport Minister.
Yes, we certainly are, and together with the residents of our province, looking forward to that. But we have to respect the fact that national government has the mandate to finally, make an announcement that will clarify all of us on what is the way forward. But as we await that, we are preparing, as I said, increasing and expanding our revenue base, because in the very initial comprehensive submission we did years back, in which we were saying, here are workable, efficient, effective sources of revenue and modeled financial models that we have developed, we said we were ready as a province to make a final contribution. And that is exactly what the new Premier was putting on the table and directing us to do. As I'm living here, we have a 2-day meeting with the officials at Treasury. That's starting today and tomorrow. And the meeting is precisely about, because we have been working on 5-year plans and annual plans, so the directive was made on Friday. We need now to adapt and adjust our planning processes and our new targets to make sure that we incorporate the directives that the Premier has issued. But top of that is definitely raising revenue. And of course, in a very complex global and local environment in which, as you would know, the global economy, our own economy, are in a difficulty. But we are very confident that we should be able to find very efficient and effective alternative and workable sources of revenue so that we can bring great relief to the people of our province on this very long outstanding matter.
Safe to say that there are no firm dates, and that imminent announcement around the scrapping of e-tolls remains imminent. Yes?
I wouldn't want to get into the space of a national government. We should respect that. But as you can see, we are no longer where we used to be before. We are talking about making sure that there is money in the provincial account to fulfill the commitments that we have made, which is to pay off the debt. And to that extent, that shows you that we are actually hard at work and we understand time is of the essence. And that is why promptly and very swiftly we have to say, how are we repositioning our fiscal instruments and tools to make sure that we can be able to finance this complete scrapping of what was essentially a heroic failure. A failure with that perhaps people had good intentions, but that has come out to be completely something that shouldn't have happened.
MEC, I will not allow you to campaign on this show.
We're not campaigning. We're just talking facts.
You are not saying anything that gives us something to hold on to as to what this new revenue model is going to look like that will then take over the financing of the debt of these e-tolls. But we're going to leave that there because I suspect you're not going to give me that. Let's quickly talk about the pharmaceutical company that the MEC or the Premier spoke about. This pharmaceutical company, the Premier says in his words, there must be no hospital or clinic without medication. Why are you so brave as to suggest that if government takes over, things are going to run efficiently? That has not been the experience of the people of this country.
Just maybe if you permit me, slide back on the matter you raised. In the last week of November this year, I will be very privileged to table a mini budget or a medium-term budget policy statement. And it is at that point that we will be able to give much more clearer, finer details with respect to where the process is. And actually, that's going to be preceded by Minister's own policy statement. So we're not talking very long term. Well, I'll come back to the issue to say to you, these are the details on the revenue options and models that we believe will work better. So it shouldn't be correct to just say there are no details. We're going to work on it in the next 3 or 4 weeks. We have this very important platform, and we'll talk to some of the details. Now, on the issue of the pharmaceutical state-owned entity, I think this again, of course, goes with setting up a bank in the province, and I'd like to deal with them concurrently. That this is very much important. The issues actually talks to, because remember the budget, the finances of government are an instrument for what we call enhancing the developmental capacity of the state to deliver services. So it talks to a strategic fit of the ruling party and, of course, of government as a whole. So we are very much convinced, and the first step, and we have already commissioned that this week, is that we need to just create consistency and clarity on the legal instruments. We are a country based on the rule of law, so everything we have to do, we have to create legal certainty around it. Yeah. But I can assure you that if we just take the pharmaceutical company, I've had the privilege to act in the Department of Health for about 6 months in 2020. And I can tell you, the challenges that the people of the province face, particularly those that receive and need chronic medication, the current situation is so inefficient, and I think it's a source of pain for the people. So the entity that we're talking about, I can tell you, just from servicing the people, saving us money, also giving us a very good benefit on the bulk buying and economies of scale, I can tell you this is going to be a huge it's going to make a huge impact on bringing relief, particularly to the elderly, to the most vulnerable, who have to spend little money to go queue for medication. So I want to say to you that this is
come from MEC. You are the MEC of Finance in the province, and I suspect you're going to have to come up with the money that finances the establishment of this state-owned pharmaceutical company.
Again, actually, we're not talking from a mandate that we're not running currently. Yeah. If you look at, let me take the Department of Health. You know, we have got we currently, all hospitals in the province are procuring, supplying, storing and distributing pharmaceutical products. So it tells you that we have got a baseline in terms of revenue to reposition it to do precisely what we're going to do. So this is not an what people call unfunded mandate.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is to take and proceed from the current resources and the network and infrastructure that exist.
All right.
Turn it around, make sure that's efficient and effective. And of course, if there's a need for more money, we'll look into that. But you might find that actually we can even cut costs, because it's not just increasing money. You can have, on the contrary, cutting costs and be more efficient.
But I'm sure you're probably not going to have timelines by which you want this set up by.
We have started, as I've said to you, we have commissioned clarity on the legal space that we have directed. Remember, we just appointed last week Friday, but already in the interactions I've had with the accounting officer, we have clearly said quick procurement to get certainty on the legal issues and the options. So that work is starting. The Premier has clearly said we need to hit the ground running. Time is of the essence. So in the mini budget statement that we'll announce at the end of November, I'm inviting you to await that and get the details. We will clearly be saying to the people of our province, this is the direction we're taking to implement the directive that Honorable Premier gave to us.
MEC,
Doubting Thomas?
You're a difficult man. You're a difficult man in terms of time management, because there's one crucial question that I'm sure Gautengers want answers to, and that is dealing with the scourge of drug abuse. That talks directly to the hearts of people who have children that are struggling with the issue of drug abuse. I must squeeze this in very quickly.
Give us 4 weeks. 4 weeks. We will spell out to you in detail on the directives that the Premier has given. We also shouldn't be populist and promise things that have not been carefully thought about. So in 4 weeks' time, we will outline this is what the Premier said, this is what MECs are saying and departments, and we should be able to give the residents of the province much more clearer, concrete, detailed and comprehensive plans on how we're going to finance them and how much. Those details will come. We're talking not 4 years, only we're talking an announcement that will be made in the mini budget that will be announced in 4 weeks' time.
Okay. That's the promise from the newly appointed MEC of Finance in Gauteng, Jacob Mamabolo. He says he's a man of action, not of promises. We're going to bring him back here. Hopefully, we'll have a much longer time with him. Thank you very much, MEC, for your time here today.